Rainmaker FM.
Copyblogger FM is brought to you by Studio Press Sites, the complete hosted solution that makes WordPress fast, secure, and easy without sacrificing power or flexibility. Feel free to upload your own WordPress theme or use one of the 20 beautiful Studio Press themes that are included and just one click away. Explore all the amazing things you can do with the Studio Press site, and you'll understand why it offers a lot more than traditional WordPress hosting. No matter how you'll be using your site, we have a plan to fit your needs and your budget. To learn more, visit rainmaker.fm/StudioPress. That's rainmaker.fm/StudioPress. Hey there, great to see you again. Welcome back to Copyblogger FM, the content marketing podcast. Copyblogger FM is about emerging content marketing trends, interesting disasters, and enduring best practices, along with the occasional rant. My name is Sonia Simone. I'm the Chief Content Officer for Rainmaker Digital, and I normally write at least once a week over on the Copyblogger blog, as well as more mindset and ranty stuff at Remarkable Communication. Remember, you can always get the show notes for every episode. Those include links and free extras by pointing your browser to copyblogger.fm, and that's also where you can find the complete show archive. So this is, of course, that time of year when people are thinking about what's going to happen differently in the upcoming year. You know, you're going to get so much done. You're going to be so successful. You're going to deal with that nagging thing that's been bugging you. And January is a traditional and natural time to do that. I have no problem with that. I think it's as good a time as any. But I would like today to make a case for getting ready to do those kind of goal-setting tasks and that kind of planning in December. Partly because a lot of our routines tend to get disrupted at this time of year anyway. And December is a great time to start to do the pre-planning for the changes that you want to make for the coming year. It's very common for us to have some days when we are partly or completely off of our routine. Depending on what you do, it's a lot of businesses are fairly quiet at this time of year. And if you're like me, no matter how much you love your family and love the time that you spend with them, it's kind of nice to be able to duck out for an hour or two and just find a project that demands a little bit of quiet attention. So I have 3 things today that I would like to encourage you to think about this month. Not necessarily planning anything, putting anything in stone, but just to start noodling. And we will have some additional thoughts and additional resources for you coming up on these topics in January, but this is a good time to just start playing around with the ideas. The first one being on most of our minds most of the time, which is creative productivity. You know, probably the number one resolution among people that I know is to get more stuff done. So more words written, more podcasts recorded, more interviews, more of the thing that you do. And almost all creative people wrestle with this to a certain degree. So either they're producing good work, but they really would like to be producing more of it, or they need to put those creative hours in. They're working on that mythical 10,000 hours to get really good, to get as good as they want to be. And while we're touching on that, I do like to make the point that that whole idea of 10,000 hours, it was popularized by Malcolm Gladwell based on some other kinds of research. It is a bit of a myth, which is to say, if you want to be Yo-Yo Ma, if you want to be the best in the world, you'll need 10,000 hours and more. But if you want to just be really good, if you want to be damned good, if you want to be better than 99% of the people who do your thing, that comes along a lot earlier than 10,000 hours into the game. Because sometimes I see people get slowed down by this idea that they're a decade away from being really terrific. And that's just typically not really correct. If you care about your craft, whatever it is that you create, and you're working on it, and you're educating yourself and you're putting the time in, that already actually gets you into something of an elite category, because most people pretty much settle for good enough is good enough. So the thing about productivity advice, a lot of it is about squeezing out more tasks per hour in the context of essentially a cubicle kind of job. But the kind of advice you need as a creative person, as a content creator, is more focused on what Cal Newport calls deep work. So that's the focused stuff, the kind of work only you can do, the kind of work that really showcases your voice and your unique perspective. So as you're looking for productivity advice, make sure you're looking for advice that's designed for people doing the kind of work you need to do. It needs to make room. If you are working on creative output, you need to make some room for a certain amount of noodling time, a certain amount of goofing off and, creative play dates and things like this. Creative work and building a business, by the way, is absolutely creative work, needs time to cook on the back burner. So earlier this year, I had an interview with Jessica Abel of Growing Gills. I really like her book for creative productivity. I really recommend it. And I will give you a link to that interview and to her book, and also some more of my favorite productivity resources. Again, just point your browser to copyblogger.fm and you'll find it. Also, over on the Copyblogger blog, we spent all year giving creativity and productivity prompts, and I can get you a link to all the prompts for 2017, so you can kind of browse them. You can shop there and see if you can find something that you'd like to work on. And a lot of us who are maybe on the productivity junkie side of things will tend to ping pong through that kind of advice. And really what I've found useful is go ahead and try some different things, try different techniques, and then put together the system that works for you. It's a lot like Lego. You get a certain number of bricks, you can put them together to make the structure that works for you. And I have always found that a handful of pretty simple tactics that I can just make into a no-brainer habit have always served me better than trying grandiose systems, massive, these massive kinds of projects. David Allen's, wonderful book, Getting Things Done. I love the book, but it really makes this whole concept of making more things happen into a project that sometimes is bigger than your actual work. So beware of overly complicated systems, in my experience, and go for a handful of simple things you can use and that are practical and you can just use easily. So the second thing that I wanted to talk about is really closely related to creative productivity, and that's creative processes. So developing good processes for the work that you do. And the funny thing is that pretty much anybody listening to this has very robust processes in place for things that you don't care about all that much. So for example, you have a great process in place for brushing your teeth. You know exactly how to do it. You follow the same steps every day. You do it 2 or 3 times a day, absolutely without failing ever. Brushing your teeth twice a day, 365 days a year is not intimidating or overwhelming. And in fact, if you miss it one day, you have this major kind of yuck moment and you put a lot of focus into figuring out, how am I going to get this task done? Because for some bizarre reason, I wasn't able to brush my teeth today. You really can, and I know people who do, make your creative output work that way. But those processes have to be really well defined. So you have to know what your tools are and how you're going to get hold of them, and you have to always have them around 365 days a year, and you have to know what to do if for some reason you're away from them. Just the same way that you have, you know what you would do if you're traveling and you forget to pack your toothbrush. You have a backup plan. And the other thing is that you don't brush your teeth like one way, like horizontally on Monday and then vertically on Tuesday. And then on Wednesday, you do oil pulling, and on weekends you floss and you use mouthwash, but you don't brush. Like, you don't do that. You just brush your teeth. So it's a collection of steps, and it always goes the same way. That means you never have to really remember anything or think about anything. which is one of the reasons it's so easy to get it done. And one of the things that makes creative work difficult is we don't have those steps. We don't have those reliable steps that we always go through, first one, then two, then three. So again, I will give you a couple of processes that you can just swipe for creating content. One of them was developed by Pamela Wilson, and I love this and recommend it all the time. The other one was developed by me. They have many things in common. They have a couple of differences, and they're both processes for creating written content. And that also, of course, could be developed into audio content or video content, infographic content. So, of course, you are entirely welcome to simply swipe one of them or adapt one for your own use that combines elements from both, or add any twist at all that makes it work better for you. You don't want something that's insanely complicated, because as soon as it feels overwhelming, it's not going to happen. So you don't want to have like a 68-point checklist for writing a blog post, unless 68 points makes you feel, supported and productive. Because you do, of course, want to cover all the steps. It's breaking a larger process, like writing a blog post, into more manageable mini steps. That's a big part of what gets you actually doing the work, because you always know exactly what to do next. So you want to find that kind of Goldilocks point for your process, not too complex, not too sparse. And then the final thing that I would suggest you noodle on a bit in your December, in your moments of time you might be able to find, is finding clarity about how what you're doing, this creative output that you produce, your writing, your podcasting, whatever it might be, how does that fit into the larger picture? So, for example, you'll often hear people say blogging doesn't make any money. And that's because blogging all by itself, unless you happen to be a professional writer and what you do for a living is write blog posts for people, blogging is not a business model. Blogging is a tool. It's a tool for developing a relationship with an audience who, if you're doing it right, may be a really good fit for some excellent, relevant products or services that you're going to make available in a way that provides value and doesn't insult their intelligence. So you're getting the picture here. When you write a blog post, that's important and valuable and useful, but you have to understand how that connects to the other dots. It's very similar to your creative process. This is a process for how other people go from just kind of stumbling across what you're doing to thinking that you're kind of cool to maybe buying something and then on to being your absolute biggest raving fan. So right now, the best free resource that I have on that is a series of ebooks that Brian Clark wrote about content strategy and just talking about kind of the what goes where. And you can get that by signing up for our content marketing library. It is free, and it comes with a really comprehensive set of ebooks that will, on email marketing and keyword research and content strategy, all kinds of really good stuff. Now, heads up, we're going to be making some changes to that library in 2018, and it probably won't be available the way it is today, where you can just go in and just get the whole thing. So if you want that experience, if you want to go grab a bunch of very detailed advice, I refer to these all the time. They're just very practical. Then now would be a super intelligent time to go pick those up. So, of course, I will get you a link in the resources at copyblogger.fm, but you can also just go to the copyblogger.com site and look for the education tab, and from there, choose free My Copyblogger. You want to, in particular, look for a couple of ebooks from Brian Clark on this connect the dots kind of topic. One is called The Business Case for Agile Marketing, and the other is called A Content Marketing Strategy That Works. And again, those are free. So those are the 3 points that I can recommend you just spend some time noodling on in December. How to boost and improve your creative productivity, those creative rituals that allow you to get more work done. How you can come up with content processes for yourself so that creating a piece of content, you know exactly how long it's going to take, you know exactly what kind of work is going to be involved, and you can just approach it really confidently. And then thinking about that larger picture. How is whatever you're producing, whatever kind of work you create, how does that fit into a larger picture? And are there any pieces missing? Are there any pieces you might want to add in the coming year that would make what you're doing now more effective, that would make more people find your work, benefit from your work, and then go on to whatever your goals are for that content? So if you are working on one or any of these things, I always love to hear from you in the comments. You can just swing by copyblogger.fm. Let me know what you're thinking about. And you might want to keep an eye on the Copyblogger blog in December, because we'll have some short and sweet articles for you on these topics to help sharpen up your thinking and give you lots to play with and chew on. Thank you so much. I hope you are enjoying this end of the year time. It's always kind of an odd and interesting time. And I'll catch you next week. Take care and thanks.